What is a completely random fact? The unicorn is the national animal of Scotland. Carrots being good for your eyes was a disinformation campaign used to obscure the invention of radar. A planet that has the shape of a donut is scientifically possible. I see those donut earthers have gotten to you too. 10 to 20% of U.S. power outages are caused by squirrels. WD-40 stands for Water Displacement Formula Number 40. Female kangaroos have 3 vaginas. I love how excited you are about this. Dragonflies have a 95% kill rate, which is ridiculously high. It snows diamonds on Uranus. Well, it snowed diamonds on my ex's anus as well, but she still wasn't happy. At one point in time, all the details of the Manhattan Project were in 3 safes, each locked with the code 271828. Mathematicians would of course recognize these numbers as the Euler number, 2.71828, a number that has wide importance in calculus. Physicist Richard Feynman was able to crack into these safes after snooping around the secretary's desk and finding the number pi, 3.14159. After thinking, why would a secretary need to know the value of pi, he deduced it was probably a code, so he tried it on the safes. After they didn't work, he tried other numbers that mathematicians and physicists would use, and sure enough, it worked. After he got into the safes, he thought to pull a prank on the director by leaving little notes in the safe to scare the director into thinking that a spy had gotten in. The oldest your mom joke was discovered on a 3,500-year-old Babylonian tablet. Thou'st birth giver hast sucketh on mine cock and balls. Clouds are at least 150 feet thick if you can't see through it. 45 meters in non-American. Most male bugs do have homosexual sex to get rid of their useless and poor quality sperms. Buggery. The world's largest purchaser of explosives is the US government. The world's second largest purchaser of explosives is Disney. There are 108 stitches on a baseball and 118 ridges on a dime. Incubators for premature babies were a sideshow attraction for many decades. They were called infantoriums. A lot of flatworm species are hermaphroditic, meaning they have both male and female parts. When 2 of them meet up to mate, neither one of them wants to be the one to get creamed in, so they do a little thing called penis fencing, where they go at each other with their dicks out and try to stab the other one with it deep enough to inject sperm. And female hyenas have pseudo-penises, which are larger than a male's authentic penis. If you are in bed and can't fall asleep, blink constantly for a minute and you'll get tired, yawn, and soon fall asleep. Gary Newman is 13 days older than Gary Oldman. You fart about an ounce every day. These are rookie numbers. Muppets singing Bohemian Rhapsody is the first ever video on YouTube with 1080p quality. Squid brains are donut-shaped, and their esophagus runs through it. If a squid eats something too big, it can get brain damage. Something I found out very recently. If you're doing intensive workouts for losing weights or otherwise, your body produces a large amount of creatinine for the new muscle and proteins. At the same time, if your kidneys start failing, they cannot filter out stuff as efficiently. Creatinine is one substance that the doctors look at while testing you for kidney disease. I was working on losing weight and had some health issues, so I went to the doctor. They told me immediately that my kidneys are failing and I probably will need emergency care. A week of tests and a lot of payments later, I didn't have any kidney issues. It turns out that the creatinine levels were high just because of my intense workout plan. So if you are diagnosed for kidney failure, make sure to do an ultrasound first. 50% of the world's pigs live in China. I knew their government was awful, but really? In the UK, a lot of very old streets are named after the professions of ye old inhabitants, e.g., Baker Street. The brothels were often located on Gropecunt Lane, many of which still exist under Grope Lane like in Bristol or Grape Lane like in York. Ants were actually one of the first species to develop agriculture in the form of growing different types of fungus. Ibophobia is actually the term for a fear of palindromes, which is both mean and hilarious. In India, you are legally required to have a license to fly a kite. Eyeballs don't bounce. How have you acquired this information? The original Mr. Potato Head toy did not come with what we now consider the body. It was a set of parts with pins that children could stab into real potatoes. Ants have a terminal velocity of 1.778 meters per second. This means they can fall from any height and not harm themselves. No fall damage. That's so unfair. There are no cats in the Bible. Pirates didn't wear eye patches because they'd lost an eye. They wore them so that one eye would be adjusted to the dark. Therefore, when they go below deck, they can remove the eye patch and see better. The ancestors of modern horses evolved in the Americas, then migrated to Asia and died out in the Americas due to an unsuitable climate. Thousands of years later, escaped Spanish colonial horses would repopulate their American plains with modern horses, who could now enjoy the perfect environment that their ancestors first evolved in all those years ago. Horses are unable to vomit, which means that if they are trying to throw up, their stomach explodes. Male giraffes will headbutt a female in the bladder until she urinates. Then it tastes the pee to help it determine whether or not the female is ovulating. Cannibalism isn't illegal. What is illegal is how someone obtains the body. People can put in their will that they would like to be eaten alive or consumed after death with the legal name of the person eating them, and by law the government cannot stop you. Each pineapple takes 1.5 to 3 years to grow. Dirt smells extra smelly when it rains because humans have evolved to detect moisture in the ground, and in ancient times we would use that scent of wet dirt to find more sources of water. Twinkies are 68% air, therefore making it totally possible to fit 2 Twinkies into the space taken up by only one. Kangaroo milk is so rich in selenium that it's deadly to humans. The longest wedding veil in history was the same length as 63.5 football fields. Obama used to smoke, but he promised Michelle if he won the presidency he would quit. When a Viking received a gut wound, they would be fed strong onion soup. After some time, someone would smell the wounds elsewhere on their body. If they smelled like onions, there was damage to the intestines and no chance of saving them. A golf ball has 352 dimples. The largest tire manufacturer in the world is not Firestone, or Goodyear or Michelin. The largest tire manufacturer in the world is actually Lego. The world's longest hiccup was about 8 years. Just think how hard it would be to get in a relationship. I'm sitting here imagining some guy making a hiccup sound, but the sound never stops and he's just spending 8 years screeching at everyone. In a deck of cards, the King of Hearts is the only king without a mustache. The tallest building in the state of Wyoming is a college dorm. If you open your eyes in a pitch-black room, the color you'll see is called Eigengrau. It snows metal on Venus. The most effective hunter is the dragonfly, 95% success rate. This is because its optic nerve connects directly to its wings. Sounds from far away seem louder when it's going to rain. This is because the water in the air conducts sound. A sea lion once saved a man. Penguins have an organ above their eye that converts salt water into fresh water. Honey badgers are named by Guinness as the most fearless animal who ever existed. Elephants masturbate by slapping their dicks against their chest until they come. Thanks, I guess. One of the more popular biblical quotes, "God helps those who helps themselves," is not mentioned anywhere in the Bible. It was originally found in one of Aesop's fables, Hercules and the Wagoner. Most of what people colloquially know about the Bible is actually from the Bible's famous fan fictions Dante's Inferno, Paradise Lost, etc. The nut that holds the blades of a helicopter together is called the Jesus nut. Typewriter is the longest word that can be made using the letters on only one row of the keyboard. On a QWERTY keyboard, some savages use Dvorak. A coin toss is not a 50-50 chance, there is a 0.000016% chance that it lands sideways. Dolphins are perverts. I was wearing a Speedo and that beached himself to stare at my wong. The thigh bone of human is stronger than concrete. Do you know that you eat like 8 spiders during your sleep? Myth. It was actually published by a research group studying how misinformation spreads. A landlocked country is one that is entirely surrounded by land, or only has borders with closed seas and therefore no access to international waters. A doubly landlocked country is one that is surrounded on all sides by landlocked countries, meaning it's essentially 2 steps away from international waters. There are 2 such countries currently in the world: Liechtenstein and Uzbekistan. A blue whale can fart a bubble big enough to contain a horse. Donkey Kong got his name because his creator believed donkey meant stupid in English and wanted to convey the impression that the character was a stupid ape. Steady Ed Headrick invented the Frisbee in the 1950s. When he died in 2002, his final wish was to have his ashes turned into a Frisbee. His dream was that his son would play with him after his death and that he might even accidentally end up on someone's roof. Cats spend 3/4 of the day asleep. And the rest of it making sure I can't sleep. When roosters make their sound, their ears close up so that they won't become deaf. Barack Obama was the first president to own a BlackBerry. Crows hold grudges. Once they identified the suspect in question, they would threaten them by diving down and swarming the person that they had felt threatened by years before. A second is called a second because it is the second division of the hour by 60, the first division being a minute. Axl Rose is an anagram of oral sex. Redheads and guinea pigs make their own vitamin D. There are no scientifically accepted names for the Sun or the Moon. The International Astronomical Union simply refers to them as the Sun and the Moon, not Sol and Luna as you may have heard. If you are 25 years old, apx 1/3 of the world's population who were alive when you were born, have since died.